Hello friends, back with another Citizen watch review. This is one I've been meaning to get to for a long time. I got it last summer and I thought I'd give a review of it just because it's another one of those watches that's mostly available on the Japanese markets. There are some sibling models that are available overseas though, so I thought I'd go over this, go through its functionality, and talk about what I liked and don't like about it. So this one is the AT8040-57L. It's part of a larger range of watches called the 8040 line, and it's part of the Attesa range of watches that Citizen makes. Attesas are basically a lot of titanium watches that Citizen makes. They have a variety of functionality, but they're all titanium is the common point. So first, I'll go through the stats on this watch. It's a 41.5 millimeter case. The case has 9.7 millimeters thick, and the weight is 82 grams stock. I've measured this at 75 grams just for this watch with a couple of the links taken out. So it's a very, very light watch. And the reason it's light is because it's made of titanium. Citizen calls this super titanium with what they say is a quote-unquote Duratect coating. And let's see, the crystal is sapphire with something called clarity coating. It's not billed as anti-reflective coating, but it's clarity coating, which is effectively just about the same thing. It's very clear. It's very easy to see through the crystal. And of course, because Citizen, it's what's branded as Eco Drive, so that's a solar quartz watch. So as long as you give it enough sunlight, it should stay powered for a very long time. And one thing this watch has that other watches in Attesa range have is a MicroAdjust clasp. So, and sorry if the focus is a little off here. So if you hold in the clasp like this, there are 3 levels of MicroAdjust like this. So you can use that to adjust the size a little bit. And aside from that, yeah, it's a traditional watch with a titanium band with, I think some of the links are polished, some are not. So you have this kind of shiny bits on the band as well. The movements or the caliber on this one is the H804. Whoops, that's upside down. Sorry about that. So this uses what's known as the H804 movement. It's very similar to the H800 movement. And as you kind of learn more about Citizens, you'll recognize this as if you look at the subdial layout, you'll see that it's on a lot of Citizens watches. So I think the H804 is distinguished from the H800 by the fact that the day window is at 4 o'clock right here. So the retail price for this thing is officially it's 121,000 Japanese yen, which is about $800 US at the time I make this video. You can find vendors on sites like Rakuten selling it for 84,700 Japanese yen, which is roughly $560 US. So like a lot of other Citizen watches, the retail price and the actual MSRP are a little different. And I actually got this thing used for 39,400 Japanese yen. So that's about 260 US dollars at the time I make this. So I'd say, yeah, I figure this is maybe something in the $500, $600 USD range, and that might be give you a good idea of what other stuff is at this range. So there's quite a lot of functionality on this watch. Let me get into the first part of it. So the first part is time mode, as you can see right here, just normally keeping track of the time, minute hand, hour time, minute hand, hour hand. The 9 o'clock subdial is a 24-hour hand for the current time, so you can see it's about 9 a.m. And then so you can see there's a day of the week on this 6 o'clock subdial. So we can say that it's Wednesday right now. Sorry, I'm just due to my camera setup, I'm looking at the watch through my camera. So I kind of have to look at it off angle to see what its actual, what time it is. And a date, so you can see it's the 10th. And yeah, this is of course your standard traditional time, 3-hand watch, nothing too special about that. And then the other big piece of functionality this watch has is a chronograph. So, and sorry about the focus here. So if I press the top button right here, the one at 2 o'clock, that engages the chronograph. See, the second hand goes up to 0, the bottom subdial goes up to the top position, and then we press it again to start it. So you can see it's starting to measure the time as a chronograph, and the hour hand and minute hand, of course, doing their thing. They don't know anything about the chronograph. So you can see this bottom 6 o'clock subdial is measuring increments in terms of, I think it's 20ths of a second. So if I stop it right there, you can see that we've measured precisely 15.85 seconds on the chronograph. And then we could press the top button again to re-engage it, and away it goes. So this bottom subdial right here, the 6 o'clock one, is spinning once per second. And it will stop that after it's run continuously for 30 seconds. I think to save power, just because spinning that hand around is going to consume a lot of power. And then you can see at the 12 o'clock subdial, the one at the top of the face, that's measuring the elapsed minutes. So it's very easy to start and engage the chronograph. All you have to do is press the top 2 o'clock pusher right there. So yeah, as we can see now, because it's been running for 30 seconds continuously, it's stopped. But if I stop it right there, you can see that it's continuing to measure. So we've measured, 49.35 seconds. And we can press it again, and away we go. So then, as we see, as we crest 1 minute right here, then the top subdial, 12 o'clock subdial, clicks over 1 minute. So we've measured 1 minute right now. And then we can stop it again. So if we press the bottom pusher, the one at 4 o'clock, that will restart the chronograph, set us back to 0. And then if we push it again, it will return to time mode. So that's the chronograph. It's very easy to start and stop. You can just do it, with the 2 clicks of the top button anytime you want to measure anything. So you get parking meter. You can measure, like, I don't know, if you're impatient and someone says, "Okay, I'll be out of here in 5 minutes," you can guarantee that they you can prove that they were too long or too short, if you like. So the chronograph is very useful, but one important thing to keep in mind is that this is a 60-minute subdial right here, and once it hits 60 minutes, it stops measuring. The top dial will move again counterclockwise, and the second hand will stop at the 0-second position. So you can only measure increments up to 60 minutes on this chronograph. So you want to bear that in mind if you're trying to measure anything longer than that. So then the other piece of functionality is this is a radio watch. So it uses radio sync. And I talked about that more in that other Blue Citizen review I did. But basically, it can listen in on radio broadcasts. This one can listen in on several, so it doesn't only have to be in Japan. It can listen into broadcasts from the US, I think the central US, I think at least 1, maybe 2 towers in Europe, and I think on northern China as well. So unfortunately, that means anywhere in the southern hemisphere doesn't receive these broadcasts. And you can check the status. This bottom button is kind of a status check button. So we'll see on the bottom subdial when we press it, it's going to OK. So that means the last time it tried to connect to a radio tower, it was successful. So I'll just stop that. Sorry about that, pardon me. And then, whoa, my water almost fell off there. Okay, so then we also see if we press the status button, you notice a couple other things. So the top subdial is going to be a battery indicator. So there's 4 little pips on the left side of that top dial. And we can see that it's at the top one, so the battery is well charged. So that means we've been giving it enough light, and it's happy and doesn't need to be charged at all. And then the second hand, sorry, let me do it one more time. The second hand is going to the TYO indicator on the, I believe that's the flange. That's indicating that we have it set in the Tokyo time zone, I think UTC +9. So yeah, by pressing this bottom button, we can get sort of a status update, and it'll go back to normal time mode in a few seconds. And we can also change the time. I think if I pull the crown out, let's see, one click. Yeah, you can see that if I pull out the crown 1 click, I can change the time, set it to a different time zone. If I set it to ADL, that's Adelaide. And you can see that the hour hand and minute hand are not independent. They will, the hour hand has to kind of get pulled around by the minute hand. So you can use this to set the time to a different time zone than when you're in. And I believe it tries to connect to radio towers based on which time zone you have it set to. So if you have it set to like a US time zone, for example, or a North American time zone, it will try to connect to the tower in North America. It'll like listen in on that frequency. So yeah, you can use this to change the time zone the watch is in, and like sets the watch time even if you aren't in location where you're getting the radio signals. But if you are where you can get the radio signals, you can force it to try to listen in on the radio by holding down to the bottom button for, I think, something like 3 seconds. So we can see that the bottom subdial, it's gone to RX, which is like listening in transmission. So I'm going to cancel that because it has to be in place for something like a minute. So I'm going to press the bottom button again to cancel it. So because we changed the time zone, it says that it lost the sync. It's not. It needs to be synced again. And of course, it should be fine since it's a normal quartz watch. It should be accurate to something like 15 seconds per month. So even if you're out of radio range, I think you're probably okay with this watch as long as you're right with resetting it maybe every couple of months or so. So yeah, that is the general functionality of this watch. I think you can do things like adjust daylight savings time or summertime, but I don't know, we don't have that in Japan here, so I don't quite know how to do that, but it should be in the manual somewhere. So next I'll go into my likes and dislikes about the watch. The watch itself is really, really light. Yeah, as I said, I measured it at 75 grams, so it's extremely light. If I ever hand it to anybody, the first thing to say is, wow, it's a lot lighter than I expected, because it's a full-size watch. It's fairly large, but it's just, yeah, you forget it's on your wrist. Just the titanium makes it really, really light and very, just not heavy at all. And then I also really like how, yeah, as I mentioned, how easy it is to set the chronograph. It's very quick. If you want to measure anything, you can do it super fast. So that's quite handy. And then I also like, yeah, the hands are quite bright. The minute hand goes out to the minute track. So it's very easy to see what time it is. I'm going to be reviewing another watch recently, which is not quite the same, which has somewhat darker hands on a dark face, and the position of the hand's a little hard to see. But yeah, because the hands are quite light, it's sort of a light silver against this blue face. It's very easy to check the time. So I do like that quite a bit. And so as far as my dislikes go, let's see, this 9 o'clock subdial is a 24-hour subdial, but it's kind of, I generally don't need to know what time it is, like on the 24-hour where I'm at. There aren't any pips besides 24 and 12. So if you're trying to say it's like, it's 18 o'clock, it's 19 o'clock, you can't really see it very easily. And it's just, I kind of wish that hand could have been like an hour hand for the chronograph or something like that. If you could do like multi-hour chronograph measurements, that would be quite nice. But it's there, but it's sort of taking up dial space that could be used for something a little better, I think. And the other thing probably the biggest complaint I have with this watch is that the MicroAdjust, it tends to loosen up. Every time you take off the watch, it'll sort of loosen up to its widest position. And it's a little inconvenient because I have it at its tightest position. I had this sized in the summer, and when generally your arm is sweatier and watch bands feel a little tighter. So I generally find that every time I open it up, I have to remember to tighten up the MicroAdjust. I don't know if that's just a feature of this band or if it's because I got this used and it was somewhat beat up. And because another big dislike I have with this watch, it's not a fault of this watch, but because I got it used, there's some fairly good dings in it. The seller didn't really highlight these very much. There's a good scratch on the side of it here. There's a little piece of the crown that got taken out. It's a little unfortunate. Yeah, it's a good chunk of that. And, the band is a little bit scratched up as well, a little bit dinged here and there. It's not too bad, but, I generally like to have, stuff that's not too scratched up. And of course, you could say that if someone else has already scratched it up, then you don't have to worry about putting more into it. And I suppose that's true, but I kind of wish it was in somewhat better condition. Another complaint I have is that the date window is quite recessed. When you're viewing it off angle like this, when it's on your wrist, you have to really view it head on to get a good idea what the date is. So I kind of wish it was a little higher in the dial. I'm sure that the construction of the watch must have necessitated that. There's probably a lot of stuff in the dial, like the solar panels and things, that meant that they couldn't put the date window up higher. But it does mean that, yeah, you have to, checking the date at a glance is a little hard without looking at the face directly. And I like this shade of blue. It's pretty nice, although it kind of, if you're wearing colors that's like red or something like that, it sort of clashes with it. I don't know. It depends on what sort of fashion you like, I suppose. But the blue is pleasant, and I think it gives a nice contrast to the hands, which makes it easy to see the time and what the subdials are indicating. you know, you have to sort of work around it, I suppose. If you're wearing other sort of bright primary colors, it might look a little strange. So all in all, I do like this watch. I think it's a good value. It does what it does very well. It's just rock solid, reliable. The lume looks nice. It's this nice blue lume. The indices and the track make it easy to see the time. I think it's it's durable. The titanium, it's not invincible, despite Citizen's claims. I think you can't scratch it if you try. But it does its job well. It does several things. The chronograph's super easy to use if you ever want to use it for anything. And all that being said, I think I might sell this if I can get most of what I paid for it back. Maybe, I don't know, in the 30,000 yen range or so, $250 or so. I might sell it just because I actually got a GPS watch recently, and I think I might replace it with this one, or replace this watch with that GPS one, just as far as my daily watch. But I think you'll probably be able to find similar models of this. Once you get used to this subdial layout, you'll see that Citizen has a bunch of other ranges, watches in this range and in other ranges which use the same movement. So that was the AT8040-57L. So I hope this helps anybody who's interested in this. So thanks, and see you next time.